I see you in a lonely place. How could you be so blind? You're still regretting the love you left.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here for another video. In one of my most recent videos, someone asked me to talk about the current situation that's going on, the pandemic, COVID-19 and quarantine and all that. So I'm the type of person that I like to reflect, and I also like to learn different things, and once I learn something, I want to be able to share it. So I do have my journal here. I'm a journaling type of person, so I have a few things that I wrote down that I figure would be good for me to share, because we're definitely all impacted by what's going on and affected by what's happening and what's going on. With what's happening, I think that it has forced a lot of us to slow down, a lot of us to look inside, look internally, and slow down. And with slowing down, you're kind of forced to be with yourself. Right now, we're all kind of forced to be with ourselves and just reflect and everything. And also with what's happening, there's like a lot of pressure and a lot of talk about like being productive, and just know that productivity is not just in business. It's not just in the work that you do. It can be in with your family, with your friends and your loved ones, and most importantly, like with yourself, the mental and the internal work. And that's one of the biggest things I think that like I've had to really work on in this process here in my head, what's going on here, because that really affects everything. It affects how you're dealing with what's currently going on. What I believe with the pandemic is really just affecting all of us mentally. So, the way that we look at things is very important. So like I'm saying, with being productive in like the work that you put in for yourself mentally and internally, physically, and all of that. Right now, it's very easy to become negative. It's very easy to develop a negative mindset. It's very easy to go to that negative place. It's kind of hard to remain positive, or even see any kind of positivity or anything when everything around us, it just feels negative. Like we're just constantly seeing the news of people dying, people being sick, and you can't really do different things. So it's very easy to go straight to the negative. And I found myself doing that for a while. And that's why I really hadn't put out many videos. Like I really wanted to do so much, and I didn't do it because I found myself in a negative place. And I think that it had a lot to do with me comparing myself to other people, and also listening to what other people were saying about being productive. You got to do this, you got to do that. And sometimes I think that where you are, or sometimes you are, the season that you're in, it may be called for you to rest and reset. Are you okay with that, or will you be okay with that? If you're being called to rest right now in this season, will you be okay with that? Are you going to really be able to do that? Like everyone else is saying, be productive, do this, put this out there, do that, do that, do that. But what if right now you're supposed to be silent? You're supposed to be quiet. You're supposed to be still. Will you be able to do that? And it could be flipped, vice versa, where maybe in the previous season you were resting and resetting, and now it's your time to be productive. Now it's your time to do. Are you going to be able to do that? I was reading my devotional, and in there they asked the key question: is what you lost that valuable? It really kind of stood out to me, because I know that for so many of us right now, we're feeling like, man, I've lost so much. I'm outside, so you guys may hear the planes and stuff. You're not able to go out. You're not able to travel. You're not able to be with people physically and all of that. So you feel like you've lost something. And so the question really is what you lost really that valuable? So with that question, I think that it forces us to think about, instead of what we've lost, think about what we've gained. So you may feel like you've lost time in a sense of like the time that you were able to do certain things, but instead you've gained more time to do something else or to focus on something else. I think that now it's important to put things into perspective, and also knowing that sometimes we put value into certain things that really are not of importance or of value. And I think right now in this time we're having to, and also we get a chance to, because it's important to talk about things or speak about things in the right way. So we have the chance, we have the opportunity to look at things in a sense of right now, what do I need? And I think that one of the biggest things for all of us is that we do have all that we need. What I need is different from what you need. What you need is different from what the next person will need. And so I think that's one of the other things too. Sometimes you look at someone else who has so much and you're like, oh, they can say that because they have all that stuff and I don't have that. Well, maybe because that's what they need. That doesn't mean that that's what you need. It may be that you want that, but you don't necessarily need that. So it may seem like you have a little, but really that little bit is exactly what you need, you know? Another thing that I saw in the devotional that I was reading, that I read, that I thought was great is, your miracle is never in what you lost, it's in what you have left. And so that's another thing that I've really been focusing on in this journey and process too, is like, let me look at what I currently have and what I have left. Like right now, I am not with my husband. Like we are in two different places, because when I was traveling to Dallas for a conference, and at that time, that's when things were kind of still up in the air. So, you know, we were still able to travel and everything. And so, you know, we're just thinking like, oh, everything's going to be fine. But when I got here is when they're like, oh yeah, y'all, everything we're shutting down. And I have my baby with me, so I didn't really want to put her back on the plane. And so it's like, I spent my anniversary here away from him, and also my birthday. So it's like, you know, it sucks. And I was kind of like really in my feelings and feeling very emotional and down. And then I was like, you know what? Hold on. Let me focus on what I do have. I'm able to FaceTime him. I'm able to talk to him on the phone. We're still able to develop and continue our relationship. I have my baby with me. And I also am able to be with my family, whereas I wouldn't be able to spend as much time like with my mom, for example. So I think it's definitely about perspective. I definitely was focusing on like, what do I need right now and what do I not have? And I think that a part of this is, instead of focusing on that, like letting go. You know what, right now maybe I'm supposed to be letting go. Right now maybe I'm supposed to be purging. Right now maybe I'm supposed to be reflecting a little bit more, instead of doing the things that I was doing before. And I think that's a part of this too. It's like a reckoning, and everything is shifting, everything is changing. And I think that for so many of us, we have never had to shift. We're used to kind of going about things one particular way, and that's it. And now we are required to shift. And that's difficult for so many people, and it's okay. And I think that's another thing as well, like whatever you're feeling, feel it. And that's something that I've said before, even before this, like it's okay to feel the feelings that you feel. They're not invalid. Like just because you don't feel like this is the time for you to be productive, or this is the time for you to get to make a product or be in this specific thing or start a business, that doesn't mean that it's wrong. And if you are in that place where you feel like you're supposed to be productive and you're supposed to be going, that's not wrong either. A part of that is, yes, it's good to be productive, but being productive, what does that mean? Be consistent in that productivity as well. You know, it's good to be productive, but what about being consistent? So I think that's one of the things for me also in this, just challenging myself to tune out other people, and in turn tune into myself and like my journey and my path. And I think that's one of the things that I would want to encourage you to do as well, to tune out other people and what they're doing and all of that, and tune into what you're doing or what you want to do. Pressure from other people and like outside sources can be very destructive, and so you have to get control and take control of that. And that was a large part of like anxiety for me, just watching other people who were constantly saying, do. If you don't come out of this with a new skill, with this or with that, then you haven't done anything. And just me feeling like, oh my gosh, I need to do. You know what? No, maybe right now you're being called to do something else. So I think that it's just, you just figure out what works for you. And I feel like I say that in like everything, but I really do believe that you figure out your way. I want to share some things that have been helping me in this process and dealing with COVID-19 and the effects and the quarantine and the social isolation and all of that. So one of the big things for me, I love tea. So that's one of the things for me, taking time to just make some tea and just sit in stillness and drink some tea. Sit outside for a little bit and just kind of look, take in the scenery and just how quiet it is and peaceful it is, and just drink a little tea. Setting limits on social media. I talk about this all the time, even before this, but yeah, setting limits on social media, because anytime you have outside influence, it can really just take a toll on you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and all of that. So it's just very important to set limits. And so for me, setting limits is like on my phone, literally setting a limit. At a certain time, I can't get on the phone. At a certain time, these apps, you don't need to get on here. So especially with social media, and doing like a purge on social media, with getting rid of things that aren't necessarily aligned with where I want to go in life and where I want to be, and anything that's not like positivity. So, tuning into like gossip and, negativity and just different things that aren't really feeding my spirit or feeding me with positivity, trying to just let that go, or at least setting limits to it, and even setting limits on like what I watch and how much I watch. It's very easy right now to just kind of sit in front of the TV for hours and hours and hours and hours. But if I am sitting there, I want to make sure that I'm watching something that is going to make me feel good, and anything that is like promoting positivity, just like good vibes in essence. Because sometimes you feel like, oh, me watching this or me listening to this is not affecting me, but it does. When I begin to think negatively, I try to explore those negative thoughts. So I dig deeper into them, like, why am I feeling this? So instead of me trying to just let go of those negative thoughts, I'm like, you know what, let go in a little bit more. Why am I feeling this way? So I like to work through the negative thoughts. Instead of me saying, you know what, it's a negative thought, let me just try to hurry up and change it to a positive one. No, I'm going to work through this negative thought. I think that's the way that you're able to deal with anxiety and all the different thoughts and feelings that you may be having right now because of what you're experiencing with this pandemic, and also with other things too. But with this, for me, I just started getting negative thoughts and feelings and just getting in my head, and so I explored them, the negative impact that it's having. So not being able to travel, like me and my husband, we planned on going to Canada in July. We can't go anymore. So I just really got so negative and in my head, and I just started thinking like, oh, when are we ever going to be able to travel again? That's something that we love to do. Are we going to be able to do it? And then it's like, you know what, me thinking this way, what will that do? And instead of me trying to let go of that feeling, it's knowing that it's okay for me to grieve the loss of this trip. It's okay for me to grieve not being able to do certain things. It's okay for me to be sad that I didn't get to spend my anniversary with my husband. But after I'm finished feeling those feelings, now how am I going to move through? How am I going to pass it? And instead, let me focus on, you know what, I was able to travel to these different places, and eventually I will. But right now, I need to do what's best for me and my family and everyone else around me. So that means social distancing. That means me not doing certain things that I would normally do, or certain things that I really want to do, and instead do what I need to do so that I can eventually do what I want to do, Another thing is seeking out facts. So it's very easy, and I feel like that's a part of like with social media too. It's very easy to look at cars passing by. It's very easy to look at social media and all these different outlets and articles and all that stuff, and everybody has an opinion and everybody has different things. But I think it's very important to seek out the facts and do research. I saw a different chain messages of people like, oh, drink this and it'll get the gut and this and that, and it's like, you know what, instead of sharing different things that probably aren't valid, let me research for myself and find valuable material and content that I can share with other people that will be helpful, and also do research like for myself versus just taking what everyone else says for face value. Another thing is turning off the news. So yes, it's good to be aware. You should know what's happening and what's going on, but you need to turn it off here and there so that you don't allow it to just like bog your mind and your spirit and all of that, because on the news everything is breaking, everything is important, and you see the death toll just constantly rising and all of that, and it can really play on your emotions and just put you down even more, make you depressed and anxious. And that was what was happening for me. I found myself watching CNN and the different news channels for hours, and then afterwards I was feeling so down and out, and I'm like, oh, why am I feeling like this? And it was because I just spent too much time. I need to just turn off. And then another thing that I've been doing is thinking long term. So instead of just thinking about right now in the moment, thinking about long term. But as I'm thinking long term, I'm also making sure that I am grateful for right now and what I currently have and where I am. So like being present, but also knowing that what's happening currently isn't going to be forever. This too shall pass. And I think that thinking long term while being grateful and being mindful and being present helps you to get through this process. Not just get through this process, but get through it efficiently and get through so that you will be stronger afterwards. Another thing that I've been doing is working in my workbook. So my workbook is creating the guide to your life. So you are the one that's creating it and working through it. And so one of the things I think that is a big misconception for my workbook is that it's for a person who only wants to be married or who wants their king to come, and that's not the case at all. It's your king will come because that's how that started, with me writing down pound YKWC, but it turned into something so much more. And so I am married now, but I still work through that workbook because it helps me to get back to what I really want to do and where I want to be, and just getting rid of like negative thoughts and feelings. Like sometimes I kind of find myself reverting back to old ways, and so the workbook reminds me of where I was and how I don't want to go back there. It helps me to reflect on the past, focus on now and be thankful for now, but also looking to the future as well. So that has really been helping me also. And we have Zoom and FaceTime and all that stuff, and there are so many different things that you can do during this time. And yeah, I feel like I said so much. I feel like I say that all the time with everything, but I hope that this helps you guys. I just always want to remind you that you all are not alone, especially right now. I know it feels like you're alone, or it can feel like you're alone, but you're not. You're not alone. We're literally all in this together. And if I can be of some help and a resource for you guys, I would love to be able to. I hope that this video helps you all. I hope that you guys were able to hear me with all the nature and everything. And I hope this somewhere in here was able to uplift you. I just want you all to know that we're all affected and experiencing this, and this is something new for all of us. I definitely want to know how you guys are doing and what you're doing to get through this right now, how your family members are doing. If you've been impacted, please, let's talk about it down in the comments. As always, continue to do things that matter and keep it random. I'll see y'all for the next video. Peace.